it's time to move on to the wide receiver sleepers. Frankie, I want to start in Philadelphia because the defending champions right now, they're without their wide receiver one. Alshon Jeffrey yet to come off the PUP list that's physically unable to perform, which means he's not on the field. He's not performing. He's not doing anything. And while neither is their quarterback, whoever's behind center on week one, well, he's got to throw it to somebody. Last year at this time, Nelson Agholor wasn't even a flyer. He was a disaster. He was somebody you completely avoided. So much so that even when he was great over the first couple of weeks of the season, fantasy experts said, don't pick this guy up. It's fool's gold. Well, it wasn't. He had an awesome, awesome year for the Eagles. And while he's also been banged up this training camp, it doesn't seem nearly as severe as it does for Alshon Jeffrey. While some are taking flyers on Mike Wallace, and I think that's cool, Nelson Agholor is a wide receiver you want to own in week one and potentially going forward for the Philadelphia Eagles. If Alshon Jeffrey doesn't come off PUP before the season starts, he's out for the first 6 weeks. That is a lot of touches to go around for the Eagles' new number one wide receiver. Frank, his name is Nelson Agholor.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Greg. Last year in half-point PPR leagues, he finished as wide receiver 23. Right now, you're getting him outside the top 40 wide receivers drafted, yet his opportunity looks better than it did this time last year. So I don't really understand the hate for Nelson Agholor. You mentioned Alshon Jeffrey dealing with this shoulder injury. I wouldn't be surprised if he misses games early on in the season. He led that team in targets last year. Alshon Jeffrey did 120 targets. So if he's not around, the main guy is going to be Nelson Agholor. And while we're talking about Alshon Jeffrey, remember, the first half last season, we were talking about potentially dropping this guy. He looked like a shell of his former self. He was really touchdown dependent, was not scoring, really just wasn't scoring all that much for fantasy purposes. And then, he's now dealing with this injury. I just think Nelson Agholor going to be the wide receiver one for this team to start the year, potentially carry that on for the entirety of the season, and you're getting him drafted outside the top 40 wide receivers. I think it's a steal right now, Greg.
Yeah, he was awesome last year. He was a red zone threat. He was a downfield threat. He was a guy that could just catch it at the line of scrimmage and just go. He did a little bit of everything. And that is what you're looking for on a quote-unquote flyer wide receiver who's going outside the top 40. Dude, you gotta get him.